And good morning. Welcome to Tuesday. It's June 11th, 2024. Welcome to Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow here in Chippewa Falls. Look how light it is out there already. Just amazing. Just loving it. I know, I sound like I'm surprised, like it doesn't happen this time every year. It's still cool. Coming up, you ever get your schedule mixed up at work? We're going to talk about, campaigns and candidates and, mix-ups happen. It's just that normally when a mix-up in your schedule happens, you don't end up, sitting on a beach by the Pacific Ocean. But we'll get to Eric Hovde in just a little bit. Sharita Booker has our most popular social media posts. We have former Allison Dairyland, Julia Nunes from Chippewa Falls, joining me and Hans Breitenmoser as we talk about celebrating June Dairy Month. Chad Holmes previews his show on Bull Falls Radio in Wausau. Brittany Merlot's forecast, the Brewers win, and so much more just ahead across the Civic Media Radio Network. The show gets started at 6:06 after news. If you're watching this on playback later, just fast forward about 4.5, 5 minutes, and we'll see you soon. here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Tuesday morning, June 11th, 2024. It's another beautiful day to have you here up north, live from Lake Minnesota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network. If by chance you're listening through the Civic Media app or watching us on social media or catching us later by podcast, well, hey, thank you for going the extra mile as well. I got a question for you to start off this Tuesday. Did you ever get your work schedule mixed up where you were supposed to be at one place, but somehow you never got word of it and you weren't there? Maybe you forgot to tell somebody something or somebody else forgot to tell you about the change in the schedule. I mean, it happens. Did your schedule mix up at work include you jetting off to the coast and, hanging out in Laguna Beach instead of shaking hands in Oconto, Wisconsin? It apparently happened to Eric Hovde, and we'll talk about last weekend's scheduling snafu, perhaps, coming up in just a bit, along with so much more. You can reach us along the way by phone or by text at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-75-CIVIC. Again, the Civic Media app is another great way to go, especially since you can use that app to be part of our Scotty Summer statewide Text to Win contest. We'll have another chance to win coming up one little hour from now. You can also leave a comment on a Facebook page or a YouTube page where you find Up North News Radio. We may see it there and put it up on screen. And our email address is radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Along with the Eric Hovde scheduling snafu, we'll get into Derek Van Orden. He's got angry tweets again. We'll tell you what it's about and get the conspiracy theory music ready for it. Brian Stile is on a national list of vulnerable Republican congressmen who have been speaking out against President Biden, the infrastructure bill, other things that he's been doing to, again, give our country the best economic recovery on planet Earth at this point. And Congressman Stiles' district is one of the big beneficiaries of President Biden's actions. So we'll talk a bit about that. We'll be joined in our second hour, not just as we often are on Tuesdays, by dairy farmer Hans Breitenmoser up in Lincoln County, but he brings along a friend, former Alice in Dairyland Julia Nunes from Chippewa Falls. We'll talk about celebrating June Dairy Month. We'll have a visit with a member of the UW Stout football coaching staff. We'll talk a bit about summertime prep that's about to take place ahead of the fall season because football is like many big sports. It's a year-round activity in some way, shape, or form. And we'll talk to Chad Holmes, who previews what he'll be talking about on his 8 a.m. morning show that you can catch on Bull Falls Radio in the Wausau area or, again, on that Civic Media app. Temperatures around the state at 6 o'clock, remarkably consistent. It's 46 here in Chippewa Falls. Hayward's at 46. Park Falls is at 46. Wausau is at 46. Green Bay reporting 46 right now. La Crosse reporting 51. Oddballs. Wisconsin Rapids 47. Oshkosh 49. Madison 49. The cool spot is Waukesha, where it's 43 degrees and where we find the cool cat responsible for it, one Greg Bach. Mr. Bach, good morning.
Hey, Hepcats, how y'all doing today? I'm Greg Bach here coming at you, Waukesha, with a cool temperature from a cool cat.
It'd be so cool if you had sunglasses on right now. So it'd also be weird because it's 6 o'clock in the morning, but you sound very cool that way.
I'm trying to be cool, Pat.
How are you? What's today's t-shirts?
This is I've worn this one before. This is the Swag Shop. It's a barber shop in Atlanta, run by Grammy award-winning rapper and one half of Run the Jewels, Mr. Killer Mike.
Nice.
I went there this year and I visited 2 locations. That's how much of a dork I am. I didn't go to just one barber shop and not get a haircut. I went to 2 barber shops and didn't get a haircut.
Didn't get a haircut. But hey, you committed to the bit, and I like that.
Exactly. I got swag now.
If you're a fan, you're a fan.
I am a fan, yeah.
We're running a little slower today. Greg noticed I signed on especially late. I make a lot of jokes about, getting up there in years and waking up earlier, which is why I took when the 6 a.m. shift was offered. I'm like, well, I'm up this early anyway. I may as well get paid for it.
Well, you're getting paid?
Yeah. I get it's your passion project. I get it. I do at least 4 out of 5 mornings a week wake up, at least a little bit before my alarm, sometimes a little too much before my alarm. But this was one of those mornings where I was so deep out when that alarm hit. And, you're having whatever the dream was, because you know how dreams are. You forget them almost instantaneously. As soon as you try to remember the dream, it runs away. All I remember is being in the dream and going, that's my alarm. I never hear that. Oh, wait, that's my alarm. I should probably wake up, So
I have a tendency to wake up a lot during the night, like, every hour, but I'll go back to sleep almost immediately. But I always check my watch or my phone just to see. And the one time that's just the biggest bummer is you're like, oh, I'm awake. Okay, what time is it? And you're like, my alarm's going off in 4 minutes. This sucks. I want to be woken up by my alarm, not me beating technology.
It is a heck of a way to beat technology, but sometimes, again, at a certain age, your bladder trumps technology. It's just how it works. I'm also feeling a little older now. It's no longer just the pending birthday, but the cover models on the magazines we get at home are changing. Here's the cover model, Greg, for the AARP magazine this month. It's John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi,
the AARP magazine, looking good, just not looking 25 like he was when I was spinning his records at the college radio station in Eau Claire all those many years ago.
Did you watch the 4-part Bon Jovi documentary on Hulu?
No, I did not know there was a 4-part Bon Jovi documentary on the Hulu.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's very detailed. It's it's both like a story in the now and their history. So it's a fun watch. I recommend it.
I want to do a better job of watching music documentaries.
Yeah.
Because, again, there have been some really good ones over the years. And in fact, I have to go find one about Dave Grohl. And it's been a few years now where I watched about the first 10 minutes of it. And I said, I have to come back to this. And
the Foo Fighters documentary.
Yeah. So I got to go find that one. Didn't even know there was a Bon Jovi one. So I would like to make that more of a habit because, done well, you get these great stories, the music's woven in. It's not just like some stock music they found. It's literally the music that they do,
Yeah, you're not going to watch a good documentary and it's like, we found Paul McCartney's cousin's former roommate, and they can't even play the Beatles songs. Speaking of Beatles, and this will be hard to find because it's not on streaming anywhere. You can only buy it on DVD. But it's if you're a Beatles fan, worth the purchase. The Beatles anthology from the 90s. It's 10 hours.
Oh yeah, yes. I was just telling Sherry over the weekend, and I can't remember what prompted it. Where I said I'm kind of due to re-listen to the whole. I've got the whole box set of CDs, the full anthology, the full collection. And I've done it once where, of course, she was away for the weekend, so I wasn't bothering anybody. I could just pop in each album in order, and it was a neat little trip. And I would like to do that again sometime this summer. As soon as I'm alone and not bothering anybody else. I am also going through a bit of a radio crisis here at the moment.
What's going on?
Well, Greg,
what's going on? What's going on?
When you get to the radio station there, sometimes people touch your things. Or, there's some equipment that you have to share. There's some equipment that's all your own. Yeah. And I'm sad to report that after having invested in a really good pair of headphones, I've managed to crack part of the plastic over on the one side.
Ooh, yeah.
And
it wasn't.
It was just because I didn't, instead of setting them down gently every time, I would pick it up by one side rather than picking it up in the center.
Oh.
And so when you pick it up by one, you're putting a little bit of stress there, just enough that there's a little crack now.
That's probably why my old headphones broke too. Those were really nice as
Mm-hmm.
well. That's very
Yes,
interesting. Okay.
I know.
You know what?
So,
You know what? You when you come into the radio station
mm-hmm.
and the knobs are turned or things are
Yes.
moved or not returned to their original place, camping rules as I call them, we
Mm-hmm.
call that futzing.
Yeah.
People were
Yes.
futzing.
Yes. Do not FUTZ. Do not futz with other people's knobs, and put things back as you found them.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's not that
Uh,
hard.
well, Dan Schumacher, he's on here every Friday morning,
Mhm.
and he has, because of his job now in Ashland, his place on the river here in Chippewa Falls near Jim Falls, he's turned into a VRBO, so he's only there part of the time.
Yeah.
And he was just raving about the renters that he had this past weekend who nobody had left the place more immaculate than
Oh,
these guys.
yeah.
And he was there while they were there. So it's not like, they never showed up. They were there, but they left the place exactly as they found it, which is not what everybody does when
No,
they
no.
stay at a VRBO or even a hotel for that matter. I am still stunned sometimes, and I don't mean to get on a grandpa rant here, but we stay in hotels quite often, and
Yeah.
we'll be walking through after people have checked out and look into some of these rooms that
Yeah.
the poor household staff, the house cleaning staff's working on, and I'm like, what zoo left their animals here?
Oh, yeah.
People,
No, no, no. Yeah, when I leave a hotel room, I make sure that what they need to do to make the room look nice is exactly their job. And I know people will be like, "Well, it's cleaning." No, 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 no.
Oh,
I don't leave my stuff everywhere for them to pick up. I pick up my stuff, I throw it out, I take it with me. I just make sure that it is as clean as I can leave it for them to do the
right,
easiest job possible because it's not that difficult.
yeah.
It's not that
And,
difficult.
and look, if you're staying at a hotel, I'm not saying that everybody is well off in life, but if you're staying at a hotel, you got a $5 bill in there someplace or whatever.
Yeah, that's what
Leave that for the staff. They're not getting paid that much,
I know. I
And we can have the tipping discussion anytime, but I'd much rather leave something for the housekeeping staff than somebody hands me a cup of coffee, does no other work, does no other table service, but turns the screen. How much of a tip would you like to leave? Well, you haven't really done anything for me, so I'm going to save that money for
Grandpa rants with Pat Krylo.
making the transition into sports now at
Next thing you know, like
6:18.
Eric Hovey's got some good ideas.
Eric Hovey's Day at the Beach is coming up in just a moment. First, Colin Ray allowed just 3 hits and notched 4 strikeouts while working 7 innings, his longest outing in several years. And the Brewers beat Toronto 3-1 last night. Jackson Churio and Willie Adames had homers last night as well. Right-handed pitcher Carlos Rodriguez will make his major league debut for the Brewers in Game 2 of the series tonight at 7:10. We will unpack the news coming up in just a moment, wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this beautiful Tuesday morning. When you're here, you're up north. We'll be right back. And here is Sharita Booker, social media manager for Up North News. who takes care of all the postings on all the platforms all the time. Sharita, how you doing?
Good, Pat. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. Let's take a look here at some of the posts that got a lot of attention recently. Let's go back to last week when there was movement in the fake electors case. And as often happens with these stories, we look for reaction from certain people, public officials, and things like that. And usually there's some kind of a long press release with a statement and all that. But tell us about a unique kind of reaction on the fake electors charges last week.
Yep. So, Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Call announced that the state DOJ is filing felony charges against 2 attorneys and an aide for their role in former President Donald Trump's fake elector scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And our governor, Tony Evers, released a statement which simply said, good.
It was just, I love white space. There was a lot of white space on there and just good, because what else can you say? Charges, people have been waiting for that for a long time.
Yep. And that post got almost 500 likes on our Instagram. Annie said, about time. And Trixie said, lock them up, lock them up. And we also got some negative comments, though. One from Darren who said, Evers is a New World Order puppet.
A new world. Hey, anytime you hear New World Order, man, that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, we get some like somebody saying, just remember what goes around comes around. It's like, well, yeah, if somebody on the Democratic side breaks the law, they should maybe be on trial. Same with somebody who says, remember, you wanted to play this way. Yeah, we want to play by this way. If you break the law, you should go on trial. Really not that tough. But Donald Trump did go on trial. He was found guilty on 34 counts. And then the folks at ProPublica have been doing some investigative work on Trump and these trials. And they found some very interesting money trails.
Yep. They found that 9 witnesses in Trump's numerous criminal cases received significant financial benefits from his media company, campaign, and other businesses. And the timing of these payments during his legal proceedings are suspicious and could possibly be witness tampering. That post almost got 300 likes on our Instagram. Jeff said, is there any crime this guy hasn't committed? And Carolyn said, hashtag lock him up.
There's a lot of that going on here. My favorite is from somebody, Christopher, saying, wait, Mr. Cheapskate actually paid someone? He must be desperate, which is such a shot at his reputation of not paying contractors, subcontractors, attorneys, but witnesses. Apparently that's another matter. At least that's what the folks at ProPublica have been able to find out. And again, it's Wisconsin. One of the posts that's going to be popular. It's going to involve dairy in some way, shape, or form. And of course, last week we had Cheese Day.
Yep, National Cheese Day. And we put up a graphic about how Wisconsin would rank in cheese production if it was the country. And guess what? We came out as number 4. Number 3 was France, 2 is Germany, and number 1 is the United States. That had almost 1,000 likes. And Coldfolds, Kurt's Manufacturer in Ellsworth said, we love our cheese. And Johnny said, we beat Italy, ? And yeah, we don't call it the dairy state for nothing.
No. Now, again, Italy was just behind the state of Wisconsin. But Wisconsin, I recall us talking about this a few months back. Wisconsin's production of Italian-style cheeses, I believe, outranks Italy now at this point. I'd have to go back and double check. But I mean, and that, of course, is because of pizza. Everybody loves their pizza there. So I've spoken before about my late coming to a couple of unique cheeses, very sharp cheddars, Goudas, things like that. We use cream cheese a lot in these stuffed mushrooms that we like to make. So where are you in the household as far as cheese consumption goes?
My overall favorite for the last 20 years has been cheddar, but I do love Gouda now, and I always put that in my mac and cheese, and I feel like it's always a hit. Everybody loves my mac and cheese.
And do you have kids cooking with cheese already, like grilled cheese or something like that?
Yes, my kids are simple. They love a grilled cheese with some American slices.
I think that's perfect. That's where you start. And then you watch at some point, they try maybe putting a little bacon in there, maybe a little slice of tomato, and then you got to adjust the cooking time. And, I think it's a good staple to get kids used to cooking in the kitchen, get them used to cooking in Wisconsin. Shereen and I sit in on a lot of meetings that, of course, are nationwide with the Courier Newsroom folks. And did you see in one of the chats recently, somebody said, I'm still looking for where that statue of cheese is in Wisconsin? I'm not aware of a statue of cheese. Are you?
No, and that I feel like that's something that definitely could be made up and just something people
It,
are like, oh,
yeah,
Wisconsin.
maybe somebody was pulling their leg, or maybe we're just forgetting something. I just responded saying, no, it's not a cheese statue, it's a cheese statute. It's a law, state law. You have to consume so much cheese if you're going to live here, and we are definitely doing our part here. Sharita Booker, thank you as always. Have a great day.
You too, Pat.
I should have mentioned as well that the reason you heard Game of Thrones, the theme there is Peter Dinklage turns 55 today. We'll mention that in today's history lesson coming up in just a moment. It is 6:26 right now on this Tuesday morning. And yes, Greg, you heard that correctly. And I was I had to double check here that yes, Wisconsin does produce more cheese than the entire country of Italy, and including, of course, Italian style cheeses. This is what we do. This is our jam.
Hey, California, are you listening right now? Yes, sit down.
Because their thing is they do produce more milk, but we turn so much of ours into cheese, and we just crank it out. It's our jam. It's our thing. Making the cheese.
Yeah.
Well, and look at yesterday when
Thanks, Rita.
we had Inga Witcher Orthon talking about the cheese that she makes at her little creamery in Osseo, and you can any kind of craft craft brewing and distillery, and you think, how many different ways are there to brew beer? Well, the same goes with cheeses and everything else. With the right tactics, the right ingredients, whatever you call it, you can make something too that wins awards, like she does over at St. Isidore's Dairy.
And you guys were talking yesterday about vegan cheeses, and I know a lot of people right now are going to be like, ugh. Well, you know what? Vegan cheese has come a very, very long way in the past decades plus.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really good options out there for people who don't do dairy, and we have a cashew mozzarella at home right now that is just simply delicious.
A cashew mozzarella. Oh,
yep. And people are like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Can't say you hate it if you've never tried it.
Right. And then it just gets to the, is it still cheese then? Is it still milk? Is it still champagne if it's not made in France, or bourbon if it's not made in Kentucky? And that's not our fight to have. I have that with yourselves.
I don't care. I'm just going to put it on my food and enjoy it.
Yeah. As we were talking about the Trump trial and, all of the ruckus that was raised, I just wanted to offer up this reminder that there is a United States senator currently on trial for corruption. No one is threatening the judge's life or family. No one is calling the trial a sham, since everyone can see where the evidence is pointing. But because this trial doesn't have a screeching contingent rooted in hyper politics at best or cult behavior at worst, we're not seeing breathless media coverage of the Bob Menendez trial. In fact, we're not really seeing any coverage because the court is doing what courts do when you keep the politics out of it. More about some of Wisconsin's members of Congress, what they've been up to, highs and lows, coming up in just a bit after the Midwest Farm Report. You're up north. follow up to our discussion yesterday with Dr. Lyerly that today is National Call Your Doctor Day and Men's Health Week, and just get the checkup, make the appointment, get one that's friendlier than Greg's doctor was last time around, because these are important things to do. Call your doctor and watch out for your health. So,
yep, absolutely.
Hence the bumper music for today. Checking out our daily newsletter, you can sign up for it over at UpNorthNewsWI.com. We have a story about population shifts around Wisconsin, and also the impact of population shifts on voting patterns in the state, especially in Wisconsin's college towns. Also in the newsletter this week, you will find links to last week's 3 interviews with candidates in the 3rd Congressional District Democratic primary. We talked to all 3 of those candidates. We last Tuesday talked to Katrina Shanklin, Wednesday Eric Wilson, Thursday Rebecca Cook. And so if you would like to listen back to those interviews, again, the link is in our newsletter today, or go to civicmedia.us and go back to those shows Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and give a listen if you're still undecided 3rd CD residents on who you're going to vote for. Tomorrow on the program, we will be talking in our homeroom segment about the latest battle over Republican leadership in the legislature not releasing money that has bipartisan support to do something good. No, we're not talking about PFAS this time. We're not talking about the Chippewa Valley hospitals this time. This time we're talking about reading and literacy programs. There was a much celebrated bipartisan deal to help improve reading comprehension and literacy in Wisconsin schools. And yet, once again, Republicans in the legislature are having a bit of a temper tantrum over Governor Evers' plans with the money because of the way that he used his line item veto in the bill. And again, if you have the votes to override the veto, then take the vote. And if you don't, then you don't. That's how the process works. You don't get just to take millions and millions of dollars and go home after you'd already agreed that this was a worthy process for the funds because you didn't get to micromanage the spending. We'll talk more about that at 7:30 tomorrow. This morning after 7, we'll talk about the 2025 state Supreme Court race. And yes, there will be a state Supreme Court race in April of next year. And there is a new candidate in the race. We'll tell you about Susan Crawford coming up after 7 o'clock. But first, we have to ask if you have ever been in the wrong place because of a scheduling mix-up at work. Maybe you surely thought you were supposed to be at this place, and then somebody else said, how did you miss this meeting? And you're not even exactly sure how it happened, but it did. So this all starts with a flyer that was put out by the Republican Party of Oconto County that said that this past Saturday, after the parade, there would be a candidate meet and greet, and they list conservative Supreme Court candidate Brian Schimmel, an assembly candidate, a state senator, a congressional candidate in the 8th District, Tony Weed, and U.S. Senate candidate Eric Hovde, all listed in the program. Fast forward to yesterday in the political newspaper Politico, the Political Playbook. Let's get more alliteration in there. The Political Playbook PM newsletter says, did Eric Hovde opt for a California beach day over a rural Wisconsin campaign stop? The GOP Senate candidate was on the bill for a meet and greet at Oconto County's Copperfest parade on Saturday. But Wisconsin Democrats, who've been painting him as a carpetbagger, got a photo from a tipster who said Hovde was in Laguna Beach, California, where he owns a mansion. You can't quite see the man's face, but he appears to be with Carson Lapetito, the president of Eric Hovde's bank, and he's got the same hat, bathing suit, and beach chair as in earlier images of Hovde on the beach. Hovde's campaign and the Oconto County GOP didn't respond to the questions, so you'd have to look at the picture and judge for yourself. Mr. Bach, have you had a chance to take a look at the photo yet and weigh in on this mystery?
I have not yet, but I've got my top crack team on it. I don't know if you know this. I have a top crack team.
I'm well aware, and they'll be there for you. They'll
absolutely. I'm waiting to get the ticker tape coming across the board here soon. I'm just gonna get that information. I'm getting right on that. I'm right on that because Eric Hovde on vacation. That's what Wisconsin needs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and look, as I said in a social media post about this, having been a candidate, scheduling snafus do happen. Where somebody maybe on behalf of the campaign says, "Oh yeah, he'll be there," and then the word doesn't get around, or you say to that person, "Why did you commit? We're already committed to this other thing." So yeah, these things happen. It's just that when none of my scheduling snafus involved me, jetting out to the Pacific Coast and hanging out on a beach with my bank president, for the bank that I own.
Yeah,
in California.
That's the other thing too. I worked in politics too. I scheduled a politician and an elected official. Scheduling snafus happen, but also and on, not to defend where I'm jetting off, but like you also do need breaks. You do need those moments.
Absolutely. Yes.
Hey, today's not going to be a campaign day. You just sit and just relax and do what you need to do to recharge for this weekend or whatever. No one's having, I don't have a problem that you went on a little vacation. I don't have a problem that there was a scheduling snafu. It's just the optics. And he always just looks like he's California landowner, multi-millionaire guy here to save Wisconsin.
Bank owner. Yeah. Eric Hovde. And yeah, I mean, look, every trip to California needs to be kind of put in the box of, is this necessary?
Yeah.
Because I will say this much, as much as Tim Michaels got grief for being a Connecticut resident basically and a New York City resident basically, you didn't have him, we didn't see pictures of him lounging in the backyard of his mansion, on the coast over there. Yeah. So let's try to be a little more careful about this, shall we?
Jane doesn't like it when I do this. I do this on the show a lot. I'm like, hey, Hovde campaign, call me. Yeah. I'll help you. Because honestly, you want to take a day off, Mr. Hovde? That's fine. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin has lovely beaches all over the place, and it's summertime. And you say, hey, there's nowhere I'd rather spend my free time when I have a day off than the beautiful beaches in Wisconsin. I've just written another ad for you.
Yes.
And I'm not charging you anything. Every time he just steps in it every single time.
Yeah. It's why we let our post with Eric Hovde, call your office. No, your Wisconsin office. Call your Wisconsin office. All right, over to our next member of Congress from the dairy state here. While U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and others are trying to work out a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, one of our congressmen back home has been busy making a fool of himself with Hunter Biden conspiracy theories. I will pause for a moment while you ponder which of the several possible options we could be talking about. Tom Tiffany is a possibility. Glenn Grothman, Scott Fitzgerald. Nope. We got to be talking about Derek Van Orden, and we are. Secretary Blinken put out a post about the importance of supporters on both sides of the conflict to nudge the parties toward a ceasefire. Here's how Derek Van Orden responded in one of the many angry, bitter, belligerent tweets that riddle his account these days. Quote, "The only successful thing you have done," he responds to Secretary Blinken, "is to get 51 former intelligence types to lie and say Hunter Biden's laptop was fake so his dad could get elected president and you could be rewarded as Secretary of State. You have zero credibility." Congressman, do you know what has zero credibility? An insurrection-adjacent politician with anger issues who thinks someone could get 51 former intelligence officers to go in on a conspiracy, and not just any conspiracy, but to get them all to lie about the Hunter Biden laptop. A subject that is now so toxic thanks to right-wing tampering and propaganda that no credible member of the intelligence community would want to go near it, much less lie about it. But Derek Van Orden believes in the conspiracy because the truth is out there. Basically, it's easier to keep pretending to be a moderate because that would have taken work. It takes work to hammer out a bipartisan agreement on the border and immigration reform. It takes work to seek a bipartisan farm bill that helps your constituents and other people's constituents who maybe you don't like, but at least you'd be taking care of your constituents for 5 minutes, which would be a first. One way to take care of your constituents could be to support good legislation that does that. And that takes us to our final stop, and that would be Congressman Brian Stile from the 1st District. Story in Politico as well. Republicans still trying to take credit for the federal funding they voted against. The report talks about how the time has come to test how much voters care about the ability of federal dollars to create local jobs and investments, and how voters react to lawmakers who try to play both sides of the issue. Only 13 House Republicans voted for the 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law, a law that makes long overdue investments in roads and rails and bridges and so much more. Some of those 13 then left Congress after facing threats from the right, as well as from Donald Trump, who said they should be, quote, ashamed of themselves. Many Republicans couldn't bring themselves to vote for such a generous investment in America's future. And many simply didn't want to give President Biden a win, because for them it's always about elections and not actually solving problems together. Now, almost 3 years later, says the Political Report by reporter Catherine Tully McManus, the slow-moving machinery of the federal purse is kicking into gear. And you're starting to see Republicans who sometimes tout a project that's getting started in their district only to be fact-checked by local media or others, reminding their constituents that they had nothing to do with the new jobs and the better infrastructure that's coming. Now, Brian Stile is not one of those who's been taking credit for something that he didn't vote for. But I bring him up because the Politico story has a graphic that includes what they see as the top 10 most vulnerable Republican incumbents in the country and the impact of the infrastructure bill on their districts. And at number 2 on the list is Congressman Brian Stile, who, as we know, voted against the law. How do we know that? Because in a press release from November of 2021, he bragged about voting no. He said, today I voted against the so-called infrastructure portion of Speaker Pelosi and President Biden's $3 trillion spending agenda. We should be making investments in our nation's infrastructure, but through a smart, targeted approach that is focused on real infrastructure. What does that mean? It means smart, targeted, focused means I want things in my district, but I'm not going to fight for others because that might raise the price tag too much. And so Brian Stile voted against a bipartisan infrastructure law that also includes making high-speed internet access more available, improve thousands of miles of roads, fix all the bridges, help strengthen the supply chain, modernize the airports and the waterways. And in the graphic in Politico, it notes that I was looking for the exact dollar amount. See if I've got that here. Here we go. Brian Stile's number 4 on this list with $80 million already invested in his district out of $96 million that is proposed already. And that's for a bipartisan infrastructure law that for Wisconsin writ large is going to invest at least $2 billion into the roads, the airports, the waterways. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation has a map that shows the dots all over the place of communities that are going to benefit from these long overdue investments. And it did take a lot of work to put that bill together, get at least 13 House Republican votes, and do the work. That's what this has always been about, doing the work. And Brian Stile is going to say that either he was right on this and not be happy with the jobs or take credit for the jobs, however he's going to do it. History will show that he was on the wrong side of this vote. Today's history lesson is next. You're Up North. Couldn't we all use a little air supply on our Tuesday morning?
I mean, to live, yeah, we all need air supply. I mean,
well, no, there's the group too. You know, the duo. There's
I can't live without air supply.
Russell Hitchcock and Graham Russell, and Graham Russell is 74 years old today. So, happy birthday to Graham Russell. I don't think I kept the list in front of me, but the list of Air Supply songs, there's a lot of love songs there. There's Lost in Love, this one.
Yeah.
I'm All Out of Love. There's Making Love Out of Nothing at All, a Jimmy Steinmetz production. They knew their lane, and they stuck to that lane, you know? At no point did they say, let's rock out.
I want to write a really dark one, guys.
No, that is not the way. That's why Air Supply is beloved to this day.
Mm-hmm.
On this day in 1770, British explorer James Cook runs aground on the Great Barrier Reef, technically making him the first tourist and certainly not the last to damage the reef. Stay off the reefs, kids.
Don't touch the reef.
On this day in 1776, who doesn't love a good group project like writing an essay together? Wasn't that everybody's favorite in school? No?
No,
anyway,
because I always did more work than the other kids.
On this day in 1776, the Continental Congress appointed a committee to draft a Declaration of Independence made up of Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston. And like most group projects, one person does most of the work, usually ordered by someone else in the group, which is what Adams did to Jefferson. Took about 3 weeks, but turned out pretty well, it seems, for old TJ.
You just look at the list of names like Thomas Jefferson. Uh-huh. John Adams. Yes. Benjamin Franklin. Of course. Roger Sherman. Who?
Robert Livingston.
Don't I work with a Roger Sherman?
They were on the committee, and you know they spent the rest of their lives. You know, like, oh yeah, that was me. You know, that was me.
Hey, ladies, guess who wrote this paper?
We hold these truths to be, and I came up with self-evident. Like, no,
I hold you to be in my arms.
Birthdays, we mentioned Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones is 55 today. Again, the character Tyrion makes the whole show. I don't know that the show would have been the same without him, but let's not forget one, you know, and I love his voice. Any voice acting that he does, he's great in. And of course, Elf. He's so good in Elf as the children's author.
Can I recommend a great Peter Dinklage movie that came out very, very recently?
Sure.
American Dreamer. He's a struggling writer and professor, just wants to buy a house, so wackiness ensues. It's a comedy, which is great. I love him in a comedy. It also stars Shirley MacLaine, so it's wonderful.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Another birthday today, Donnie Van Zant is 72 from 38 Special.
Don't you know the kind of man I am? No, said I never fall in love again, but it's you and the feeling comes.
Donnie Van Zant is the middle of three sons. His older brother Ronnie was the original lead singer for Leonard Skinner, who died in a 1977 plane crash, and his younger brother Johnny has been the lead singer for Leonard Skinner since 1987. On this day in 1935, inventor Edwin Armstrong gave the first public demonstration of FM radio broadcasting in the United States. It flopped. People said, oh, there's no room for this because of its limited range compared to AM radio, which could travel across the entire country. Armstrong and others were saying, yeah, but the sound quality is better. But that wouldn't really become a priority until the what we now call the classic album rock era of the 60s and early 70s. The number one song this day in 1966 was by the Rolling Stones. By the way, I don't do this anymore because my knees are shot, but if any of you have an exercise playlist, especially if you have a running playlist, this is a good one to have.
Yeah, this would be good. This is good on a elliptical. Yeah, I could see. And I probably told you this before. The Stones just are not my jam. They just aren't. If you love them, cool, fine, but they aren't the band that I love. I'm a Beatles guy. But this song and Gimme Shelter are two of the greatest songs ever written.
And those are actually the two that I have on my phone as well right now. They're my two favorites as well. Yeah, I'd always when I was running more regularly, I always had this song kick in at about the point where I thought it'd start to get winded, which nowadays would be 50 feet, but back then was at about the the 2 mile mark or 3 mile mark. I'm like, okay, put this on here, and you're like, okay, keep going, keep up with the pace of it. All right.
My playlist is just all painted black. It's just over and over and over again.
Whatever it takes, right?
Yep.
Birthdays include Vince Lombardi. The Packer legend was born 111 years ago today in 1913. He passed away in 1970 at the young age of 57. Ooh, wow. Yikes. The number one song this day in 1977 was by Casey and the Sunshine Band.
I'm your boogeyman. That's what I am. I'm here to do whatever I can.
The TV show American Idol premiered on Fox this day in 2002. And on this day in 1986, it's a Beatles tune, but it's more about the movies, because it was on this day in 1986 that Ferris Bueller's Day Off hit the theaters, including this clip as Matthew Broderick leads a parade through downtown Chicago to a Beatles classic. I frankly would listen to remixes of these with marching bands in the background. I mean, it worked for Fleetwood Mac and Tusk,
God.
Let's.
And not a lot helped Tusk.
But I would do that.
Jackie Bach loves this part. She loves this is one of her favorite parts in film history.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. On this day in 1920, the Republican National Convention in Chicago got underway with a wide open field. No consensus on a candidate among a dozen men who were seeking the nomination back in 1920. It was on this day that party leaders gathered in a room at the Blackstone Hotel to try to reach a deal on a nominee. It led the Associated Press to coin the political phrase smoke-filled room. That's where we first saw that phrase. The convention needed 10 ballots over 2 days before settling on Warren Harding, who would later be seen widely as America's most corrupt president. Till recent times. So
hold my beer.
It's National Corn on the Cob Day. And we mentioned it's National Call Your Doctor Day. It is German Chocolate Cake Day. No. Every day is German chocolate cake in Pat's world. Oh. And it's National Forklift Safety Day. We're going to talk to a former Allison Dairyland coming up, along with Hans Breitenmoser, as part of so much in our second hour of Up North News Radio. Just ahead on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Hi, Brittany.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right, good. Here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Good morning and welcome back to Up North News Radio, unabashedly Wisconsin, brought to you by Courier Newsroom and carried by our friends on the Civic Media Radio Network, live from Chippewa Falls. I'm Pat Kreitlow at 7:06. It's nice to have you here on this Tuesday morning, June 11th. And coming up this hour, former Alice in Dairyland, Julia Nunes from Chippewa Falls, joins Hans Breitenmoser as we talk about celebrating June Dairy Month. We'll have a member of the UW Stout football coaching staff talk to us about summertime prep that's about to take place ahead of the fall season. Chad Holmes will be along to preview what he's talking about on his weekday morning show in Wausau. All along the way, you can join us at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-75-CIVIC. The best way to reach us is with the Civic Media app, because you can text us, and that means you can take part in the Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. It's a statewide contest where we have hourly winners. They run the contest about every other hour during the day here. There's a daily winner, and there's a grand prize winner who's going to get a choice of an amazing staycation grand prize. And all you do is use the Civic Media app to text a keyword for that hour. And this hour's keyword is democracy. Kind of a longer one. Be careful how you type it. Last week, we had the keyword pontoon. And as I'm watching all the texts come in, I'm realizing somebody must have used their talk to text, and it came in as on tune, Tune. And maybe they were on tune, but they were not going to be a winner because they didn't have the right keyword of pontoon. So keep this in mind. Well, not you, Brittany and Greg. You can't enter the contest.
Oh,
The important part is spelling. Spelling counts in this one. Okay.
Yeah, we had Cabin was ours was for one day, and someone just texted in Kevin.
Kevin instead of Kevin. See,
Like, all right,
it can
good
happen.
job.
So you've got until 8 o'clock this morning to text democracy to us using the Civic Media app. And as I'm looking through, yep, everybody's getting it right for the first couple of rounds here. So
they're
good
all
on you.
Googling it too to
They're all
make sure that they
Goog-
spelled it right. Just
Well,
double checking.
You know, it's that, what do they say? That ducking autocorrect, you know?
Yep.
It
Yep.
gets you in trouble. And before I get in trouble, let's turn things over to meteorologist Brittany Merlot, who's got a forecast for us that we are so on the edge. We're right on the edge of summer weather.
Oh, we are. It's right around the corner. But for today, we are looking at a few problem areas this morning. I mean, first of all, temperatures up in Eagle River dropped to 33 degrees this morning. Frost advisories were out for this morning, but have since expired. Some decent fog down in Boscobel right now, but otherwise, sunny skies for a good chunk of the state. However, we do have clouds pushing into the western areas with rain shortly to follow. That line of rain is moving out of Minneapolis right now. And of course, it's going to be pushing throughout the state. It's going to be moving eastward throughout the afternoon. So yes, everyone is going to be expecting some cloudier skies pushing in, and then also some spotty light showers. This does not have strong storms with it. This does not have crazy winds with it. And it's not even heavy rain either. We're just looking at a trace to maybe 1/10 of an inch. So this is not a big system. You're not going to get drenched. And highs today, upper 60s into the northwestern parts of the state. And then for everybody else, we'll be in the low to mid 70s today.
All right, but again, looking forward to what's coming down the pike here, along with the earlier sunrises. We're getting very close to 8:50 now, and on the
Yes.
sunset, 5:20 on the sunrise, and there are parts of western Minnesota now this week where their sunset is after 9 p.m.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. Well,
Yeah.
when we were visiting friends in Saskatchewan a couple of years back, I mean, their sunset is like 9:30,
Oh,
at that particular part of the planet, and
absolutely.
it's crazy in a good way.
And
I personally like it. Other people, not so much, but
I'm getting a
it,
little thrown off right now, even with our later sunsets. I'm like, oh
mhm.
my gosh, it's already 9. I gotta go to bed soon.
Well, that's exactly what I did last night, and thank goodness for the pitch clock. Because
Yeah.
these baseball games now, I used to I'd go to bed and like, oh, it's sixth inning, I want to know how the game's going to turn out. I finish a lot of these games now. I might have to stay up an extra 5 minutes or so, but I'll get
Yeah.
the whole game in 2.5 hours. It's a
Yep.
beautiful thing. From Rob out in Tigerton, good morning. It's sunny and 46. Busy day mowing the lawn. I changed my profile pic with my grandpa Paul Lehman, Shawano Speedway Hall of Fame plaque.
Nice.
Saturday night races were rained out, but got to spend time with my cousins. That was great. I loved 38 Special growing up. Ferris Bueller's Day Off came 2 weeks after I graduated in 1986. Somebody pays attention to our daily history lesson at 6:50.
Rob
we-
is, I think, your number one fan, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and again, we encourage anybody that wants to send in their temperature, their weather conditions, requests of Brittany for the weather. We take it all. So
Absolutely.
just get on one of those Facebook pages for Civic Media or for Up North News. Brittany, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, 7:12 right now, and let's start with talking about the elections. No, not the November elections, the 2025 election, because there will be an election in 2025, ready or not. And it will be for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. That's because one of the progressive justices, a longtime Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, is retiring, not running for re-election. So there will be an open seat next April. And yesterday, a progressive judge entered the race and joined a former Republican state attorney general. So we now have two candidates in the race, a former Republican attorney general and Susan Crawford, a Dane County Circuit judge who previously was one of the top legal advisors to former Democratic Governor Jim Doyle. She has also represented Planned Parenthood in a case related to abortion rights. And she cited that previous work as one of the reasons why she would be the better choice. Susan Crawford, in a statement, framed the battle as something dealing with ideological control of the court. Quote, "For the first time in years, we have a majority on the court focused on getting the facts right, following the law, and protecting our constitutional rights. We can't risk having that process reversed." Crawford vowed to, quote, "protect the basic rights and freedoms of Wisconsinites under our Constitution," which she said were threatened by, quote, "an all-out effort to politicize the court to drive a right-wing agenda." Crawford also pitched herself as tough on crime, highlighting her past work as an assistant attorney general, something that other progressive candidates have done in the past who have won elections to the court, saying, "I know we need Supreme Court justices who understand what it takes to keep communities safe, who are impartial and fair, will use common sense, and won't politicize the Constitution to undermine our most basic rights." Brad Schimmel is the Republican former attorney general who's also in the race. Now, if no more candidates were to get into the race, there would not be a primary. They would simply face off next April. As usually happens, there will probably be at least a third candidate, if not a fourth or more. And if that's the case, then there will be a primary. Because it's a nonpartisan race, all of the candidates would be on the primary ballot in February of next year. And then the top two candidates would advance to the general election, which next year will be April 1st for a 10-year term. Now, this one is going to be especially spirited, let's say, as a campaign, because it is a progressive justice who is stepping down, and so it is a chance for conservatives to win back control of the court. And if they don't get it done this year, they're going to have to wait 3 years, because the next 3 justices who come through, because they all rotate through, 7 justices, they each serve 10-year terms. So 7 out of every 10 years, there's a state Supreme Court race. But the next 3 after this who come up are conservative justices who will be coming up for re-election. So the only chance conservatives are going to get to take back control of the court is this coming April. And so, yes, there's going to be this sense of fatigue from Wisconsin voters. They will get past the presidential election in November, get a very brief respite, and then be right back into the meat grinder of election campaigning until April of next year. But that is exactly the kind of circumstances that Wisconsin faced a couple of years back, and Janet Protasewicz was able to emerge in that race and switch control of the court. On this day in history, the governor of Alabama, George Wallace, defiantly stood in the door at the University of Alabama in an attempt to block 2 black students from attending school. Later in the day, accompanied by federalized National Guard troops, the students were able to register. If you think such a brazen act wouldn't happen today, may I point you toward recent events in Baraboo, among many others. So let's work a little harder, kids, to keep ourselves out of the history books for all the wrong reasons. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel has a story today about reaction in Baraboo to the incident where a man whose daughter was on the stage getting set to graduate high school, the father rushed the stage to push the black superintendent out of the way and said something about not touching my daughter, who is white. Now, we don't yet know the exact nature of what prompted the father to do that, but obviously, given that situation and a previous situation where nearly the entire male population of a graduating class was photographed giving a Nazi salute, the folks in Baraboo are worried that they are once again being highlighted in the news for all the wrong reasons. And there are a lot of people quoted in the article talking about Baraboo by Madeline Heim of the Journal Sentinel, talking about the good things and the good people that you have in the community of Baraboo. They say they're mortified by the graduation ceremony incident. They would like to show off the positive aspects of Baraboo, the many diverse people that are there, and to not find themselves in the news again. Baraboo Mayor Rob Nelson, who owns a bookstore, said incidents over the past several years served as a catalyst for residents to take a good hard look in the mirror at their biases and prejudices. And that makes sense. I do take issue with one thing he said, though. He said that there are people all over the world that make bad choices every day, and it's somewhat arbitrary the ones that social media decides to seize on at any given moment. Well, that may be the case, but this isn't just one person making one bad choice. There are circumstances in the area that are going to require that community to continue to have this conversation so that once again, the few ugly people who would do something like shove a black man out of the way so that he doesn't touch her daughter might crawl back under a rock and not emerge so publicly and unapologetically. We'll talk about summertime prep for college football season next. You're Up North. Hey, Riley, how are you?
Morning, Pat. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You ready to roll here?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
All right, good. We'll get going in about 30 seconds here.
Sounds good.
Steely Dan has a classic example here of a movie soundtrack song, You Remember, FM, but remember nothing about the movie because the movie FM didn't do very well. But it was on this day in 1935 that we saw the first public demonstration of FM broadcasting in the United States. Reminder, you can join the conversation here throughout the show at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-75-CIVIC. You can also text us through the Civic Media app, and as part of the Scotty Summer statewide text contest, if you text this hour's keyword, democracy, to us using the Civic Media app, you will be entered in a random drawing to win an hourly prize and the running for a daily prize and for a grand prize as well. There's a Wisconsin Dells prize pack out there waiting for you, great Brewers tickets, or your choice of several different options for a staycation grand prize. Again, text the word democracy to us by 8 a.m. So I got a chance to meet with Riley Kleist here, who's on the coaching staff at UW Stout, and we were talking about football and sports. And I was curious as to what all has to take place in the off season at this particular level. And I know we've talked to Dan Schumacher previously in his role as athletic director at Northland College, and prior to that at UW Eau Claire. But I thought it would be interesting to hear from another perspective, in this case from a coaching standpoint of somebody who just really loves football, loves to talk about it, and is looking forward to next season. So let's bring in Riley Kleist and find out a bit more about what's going on over at Stout and what's happening at the college and the high school ranks at this time of year. Riley, good morning. How are you?
Morning, I'm Dandy. How are you?
Dandy here as well. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Well, I find this interesting because I have a son-in-law who is the equipment manager for a hockey team, Division I hockey, Western Michigan University, Army West Point before that. And so I know that there really isn't an off season. There's always something going on, whether it's purchasing or maintenance or recruiting or training or what have you. And so I figure at some point in the fall, we're going to start talking about, football scores in the WIAC and Stout taking on Whitewater, Eau Claire taking on Superior. But obviously work has to go on between now and then. And so at this time when you might not expect to be talking about it, people are getting the work done. Riley, what kinds of things, go on at this time of year? What are you anticipating doing as you get closer to actually training for the football season?
Yeah, so players are getting their bodies and minds ready for the game as well as coaches. We are working it's always recruiting season. So we're working on this year's recruiting class. There's always going to be some real late commits as well as next year's recruiting class already, because it's never too early to start texting that going to be senior in high school saying, hey, man, we're interested in you. We want to get you on campus. We want to start meeting you. Because it's never a bad idea to start talking to new athletes. And then getting ready, right? Myself personally, as a younger coach, I'm still studying and learning the game and trying to be as comfortable with our playbook as possible and other teams, the schemes and ideologies, and also watching film and teach points from players gone by and players present at the professional and college level. So I'm working now to keep bettering my knowledge of the game, and players are lifting weights, and other coaches that are in the office more 24/7 are they're working on recruiting and high school camps that are popping up all over the place this summer.
Tell me about the type of coaching that you're specializing in right now.
So I am the tight ends and fullbacks coach for Stout. So
go ahead.
The bigger running backs that don't get all the pretty runs, they're doing the dirty work. They're my guys, and the tight ends that sometimes think they're more offensive linemen that just want an opportunity to catch the football, they're also my boys. So.
I think so many people they first learn about the quarterback, and they learn about running backs and wide receivers, and I think, like you said, tight end is rather underappreciated until you've got a really good one or you face off against a really good one, and then you understand why you need that.
We say we're the poor man's quarterback because we need to know every bit of the offense just like the quarterback does. So not taking a shot at receivers or running backs, but they don't always need to understand the full premise of the play, whether it's running or passing. So sometimes the receiver goes, oh, it's a run play, I got to go dig out the safety, or I got to, down block on a linebacker. So they have to know a little bit of it, but the tight ends need to be able to work with the offensive linemen on blocking combos in his own run scheme, and and also know how to run routes with the small wide receivers. So they gotta work with everybody.
And so now you've got, like you said, you've got campus visits from potential recruits going on right now, and then eventually it's early August sometime that you get going with the morning practices.
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact date, but it's early to mid August. We'll start back in fall camp. The guys will get back on. We'll get them. The first day is it's like getting everybody back from summer break. You're getting pads fitted. You're getting your medical stuff, paperwork turned in, and all that sorted out. Just getting ready for the academic and athletic year, and getting everybody back in order, and get them in their locker, and have a little bit of a reunion. And then day 2, you're on the practice field and you're working. So,
Now you're a lot younger than me, but yet even at your young age, you know about the changes that have come to football practice from a safety standpoint
yeah,
in two different areas. There's been a lot of talk about concussions. But then there's also talk about the summer practices used to be, everybody knows the phrase two-a-days. And you'd be doing that in 90-degree weather. So Riley, even in the time that you've gone from, high school player to college player to college coaching staff, you've seen changes in ensuring the safety of football players in the summer.
Yeah, so I'm a lot younger than probably the majority of coaches, and if not all of them. But even in my playing days for youth football to high school football, and now into the college world, and seeing how different practices are run, I remember, I was playing football at the youth level and the high school level when concussions and the ideology and the belief system and the importance of them kind of changed. So I remember when you got your bell rung, you kind of just walked it off type of thing. And then it became, there was testing and mandatory testing. And now there's baseline testing for all athletes. So the game, the way you tackle somebody has changed, and it's going to continue to change. And it's even changed at the professional level going into this year. You can no longer perform a hip drop tackle as a defensive player on an offensive player. And then with that, there's different technology out there. So there's helmets that are now geared towards offensive linemen who have more repetitive but shorter distance impact head-to-head contact. They just have an extra bit of padding in the front. And there's now, they look like really big hat, like beanie hats you put over your helmet, and they're called Guardian caps. And now they're approved to be used at in-game use, at least at the NFL level. And that's part of practice now. So if we have a player who has a history of concussions or just chooses to wear one for their own safety, they can put a Guardian on, and it's just a big marshmallow that's on top of their head. So, and then 2 days, we'll have a real practice in the morning, and then we'll be on the field, no contact, just walking around and kind of getting a live look at the playbook instead of just looking at it on a PowerPoint.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of the 3D version. Riley, I'd like to get you back here to talk about this some more as we get closer to practice. I mean, we've got questions that we don't have time to answer now, like Tony asking about NIL, name, image, and licensing deals. The difference between Division III and Division I. There's that whole mystery of the transfer portal that we hear about at that level, and so much more. So, Riley, come on back again as we get closer to summer practice getting going. We'll talk about the WIAC and where football teams are going, but we really appreciate getting to meet you and hearing more of your perspective today, Riley. Thanks so much.
Yeah, excellent. No problem, Pat. Anytime. Just let me know when you want me back, and we can make it happen.
All right. Looking forward to it. Riley Kleist, thanks again so much. When we come back, we have a former Allison Dairyland joining us, along with Hans Breitenmoser and more, ahead on Up North News Radio, live from Chippewa Falls on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, there we go. We're good to go. All right, Riley, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I would. What I'll probably do is look for that opening of practice. I don't know, maybe a few days after it, and kind of get a feel for how things are going. Yeah.
I think it's August 12th or 13th.
Okay.
It starts.
All right. Yeah, I'll take a look for that, and stay in touch. We'll stay in touch in the meantime.
Yeah.
Because you never know when something else might come up between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. Text me if you have any questions or want to chat about something.
You got it. All right. Thanks, Riley. Talk to you later.
Yep.
All
Bye.
right. Bye now. Good morning,
Morning.
Mr. Breitenmoser. How are you?
Heavy on the mister. Hi, Pat.
Yep. Hi, Julia.
Hi,
Hi.
Julia.
How you doing?
Hi. Doing well. Doing well.
Good. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming to our rescue. Otherwise it's just two old guys talking. So we want to be a bit more substantive than that. What kinds of things are you up to this month, Julia, that we can talk about? Are you taking in any events?
At Wisconsin Farmers Union, I don't know. We're trying to hit as many June Dairy Month events as we can, and I'm just super excited. I grew up on a dairy farm, so I'm just here to promote the dairy industry and hoping to get people out there to go to some of those events that are happening throughout the state.
So where was your farm in relation to Chippewa?
Yeah, so we're north of town in Tilden, if you're familiar, right in
Of course
between
I'm familiar.
Chippewa.
I'm looking at Tilden out my window right now. It's out there, just past where I am in Eagle Point.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Yeah, we're right
Okay.
near Klingers and St. Peter's Church.
Oh, okay. Of course.
Mhm.
Gotcha. All right. I was just asking Sherry, my wife, over the weekend. I'm like, when can we go to Klingers? When's the sweet corn going to be ready? So she's like, not yet. Be patient. So,
I think a lot of that sweet corn is still in the bags and the.
yes, it is. I know, but I get antsy. It's good stuff. Hans, what else is new with you?
Well, we are chopping hay for the second day. The chopper's running as we speak. So we got about 200 acres in yesterday. Hope to get another 200 in today, and then we'll be close to done chopping hay.
Wow. Is this your first run?
This is first crop, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had first crop done here late last week. No. Well, yeah, just 10 days ago or so. And it's funny because, Sherry grew up on a dairy farm, but had never seen equipment this big and this fast before. Cutting that field in record time, in the rain, the next day, side raking it, again, so quickly, blowing it into a truck and taking it away. And we're like, this has to be getting used right away because there's no way you're putting that up yet. That soon after cutting it and after rain and everything else. So, but we figured that makes sense with all the mega farms now. I'm sure all that did go to use right away.
No, that feed that's getting stored in bunker silos, Pat. That's getting stored. That's what we're doing right now. Chop it in and it gets blown in a truck and unloaded and packed into the bunker silos. So those bunker silos that you see get, covered up, and that's the feed that they will be feeding, all winter long.
Okay. See, look at that. Still learning stuff. You probably already knew this, Julia.
I know a lot of different things. I'm not an expert on not much of anything, but I know a little about a lot of different things. Let's say that.
Congratulations, you're a reporter. You're perfect.
Say congratulations, you're a farmer.
Yeah. Today I am an expert and you just throw the dart and you see where it lands.
Yep.
That's funny. Is your family still working the dairy farm?
No, my family sold the cows in October of last year, so it's still a fresh, bittersweet, but I still consider myself a farmer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife's brother took over the farm, and then they sold off the cows a few years ago, and they still have some crops on the land, but they had 3 kids, and none of them wanted to go into it either, and the whole industry is just different, but they're still very grateful for the upbringing. So that's very good. All right, we'll get going in about 30 seconds here.
Perfect.
Don't forget to be part of the Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. Just text Democracy using the Civic Media app before 8 o'clock, and then keep listening throughout the day for that hour's keyword and your next chance to win. It's Tuesday, so we get the weekly crop progress and condition report through the USDA, and it tells us that corn planting is 87% complete. It is 6 days behind the 5-year average. It's 13 days behind last year. Soybean planting also 87% complete. Spring tillage is 94% complete. The potato condition is at 85% good to excellent. So all is going well there. And I was looking for Oh, there we go. First cutting of alfalfa hay, 61% complete, 6 days behind last year. And I say all that to bring in Hans Breitenmoser, who's getting set with his first cut. And I was telling him about the first cut here in the field across from us about 10 days ago or so. But, weather sometimes gets in the way. How's it been up by you in Lincoln County, Hans?
That's exactly what's been happening. The weather has been getting in the way, but we've got a little bit of a window here. So everybody's scrambling to get things done. We're chopping first crop right now. Started yesterday morning at about this time, and we're going right now as well. So hopefully we have a real good day today. We'll get done by tonight, and then we'll head over to the neighbors and help them out with theirs. So
what the heck are you talking to me for? You got work to do. Are you making everybody else work?
This is how important and this show is to me, and how serious I take it. And quite honestly, the real truth is it gave me a chance to talk with Julia, who I don't get to see very often.
There you go. See, now let's get to the star of this segment. Former Allison Dairyland Julia Nunes from Chippewa Falls, now with the Wisconsin Farmers Union, is our guest this week as well. Julia, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, now it's been 4 years since you first started serving as Allison Dairyland. Actually served for a little extended time because of the pandemic that was going on at the time. So your Alice reign was unusual, by many standards, but you've definitely stayed in the business of promoting Wisconsin farmers and agriculture and dairy and more. What are you doing with the Wisconsin Farmers Union now?
Yeah, so wow, I can't believe you said 4 years ago. That just really dated me.
Yeah,
But,
you're so old, Julia, I tell you.
well, it seems like just yesterday, but also 4 years ago. So I'm now a communication specialist with Wisconsin Farmers Union. I came on staff in October of last year, so I've been on staff for a little bit now, and I'm just here to help share the stories of our Wisconsin farmers, so that's especially those small and medium-sized farms. I want everyone to know where their food is coming from, and I really enjoy doing that with Wisconsin Farmers Union and meeting some of the farmers across the state. And now it's June Dairy Month, and I grew up on a dairy farm, so this is kind of a little extra special for me to promote those farms and the dairy products that they produce. And so I'm really excited to be doing that with Wisconsin Farmers Union now.
So yeah, this is now Julie becomes the second most famous dairy farmer's daughter to come out of Tilden after Judy Clark, my old co-anchor at Channel 13. But to have another Tildenite, I think, is a real honor to have you talking about appreciation for Wisconsin farming, and because it's more diverse than ever. You've got families like Hans's. You've got things that qualify as corporate or mega farms. It's just not nearly as homogenous as it used to be, but all of them have a role to play in Wisconsin agriculture.
That's right. Here in Wisconsin, we have more than 5,000 dairy farms, ranging from small to large, and they are all working hard to care for their animals and produce this high quality milk, which is then turned into so many different of my favorite products: butter, cheese, ice cream. The list goes on and on. I could go forever on my favorite dairy products.
That's what qualifies you as an Alice, is that you could do that. Again, folks hear about it probably every year, but not everybody is familiar with it. Can you give us a little historical background to Alice and Dairyland?
Oh wow, you're really putting me on the spot. Yes, so the Allison Dairyland program started in 1948 as a way to celebrate 100 years of Wisconsin. It was position first chosen at the Centennial Exposition, and Alice was the host of the event. And it started as just a way to kind of spread the good news of Wisconsin's dairy industry across not only Wisconsin, but the entire country. Over the years, the position has really morphed and changed. Today, Alice is an ambassador for agriculture, for all agriculture in Wisconsin, the dairy industry, ginseng, beef, anything and everything Wisconsin agriculture. Alice in Dairyland works to promote through classroom visits, writing articles, TV, radio interviews, speeches, a little bit of everything. And it's a full-time job through the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And yes, I served as Alice from July of 2020 until the beginning of July 2022. So yes, 2 years as Alice because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, Hans, how do you think she did answering that? I think she did all right, given that you would have made an excellent Alice. Hans. I mean, you are such an ambassador for Wisconsin farming.
Clearly, yeah, but yeah, I was overlooked, and Julia got the gig, and I think they made the right call. I really do.
But Hans, talk for a minute about basically the personification of Wisconsin farm marketing, because I haven't been in all these other states, so I may be off the mark, but I think that creating the Alice in Dairyland position all those years ago helped kind of put a family farm face on Wisconsin agriculture, which was already a leader as it was, but definitely made it more approachable to folks around the country than we might have a different stereotype of farmers who are distant and not plugged into the community, whereas Alice, that's as community minded as a role gets for agriculture.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And at the risk of overstating it, I think, it's like the Queen of England, right? It's the personification, like you said. But it helps to have someone like Julia that really can knock it out of the park and do that role well and be that ambassador for ag. And it's more important now than ever, not only to sort of promote Wisconsin agriculture, but also help educate people inside and outside of the state about agriculture in general. And that's an important role that Alice has played over the years as well. So we're very fortunate and grateful to have that role here in Wisconsin.
Well, now thanks to that, similarity that you drew, I'm waiting for somebody to redo The Crown, but instead of about British royalty, we just have a drama series about all the Alices over time.
Oh dear.
Although I still think I might have been exposed to one of my favorite Alice stories, and that was the year when our morning anchor didn't show up for work. And then we found out later in the day, live on her show, that she, Roxy Westfall, had been crowned Alice in Dairyland. We didn't know that she was applying or anything, and it was a very cool thing. Julie, I would imagine that maybe not all of them, but many of the former Alices are a bit of a sorority that get out there and represent Wisconsin en masse. You're never not Alice anymore.
Yes, I think once an Alice, always an Alice. And it was really fun getting together with all of them at the recent Alice in Dairyland finals that took place in Door County. And it's so fun to get all the Alices together that can get together and hear stories from everyone's year, because we all kind of have a similar experience, but everyone has a story or two or something really unique that happened during their year. For me, it's 2 years, but it's just so much fun getting together with all of them and learning from them. And I really enjoy kind of giving back to the program and mentoring the new Alices. And it's such a fun group of women who have gone to do such incredible things. And so I'm very blessed to be a part of the Alice in Dairyland program.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm going to ask it in two different ways, kind of the same question, but again, as a dairy farmer, and coming from a dairy farm family and being named Alice, and then as your reign representing pretty much all of Wisconsin agriculture. What was something you learned about, Wisconsin agriculture while you were Alice that really surprised, like you really needed to bone up on, like you were not familiar with this part of Wisconsin agriculture at all? And then I kind of want to ask about that today. What are you still learning about? What's new to you in Wisconsin agriculture? But going back to your time as Alice, what did you really first have to really learn about that you hadn't been exposed to?
Oh, I had to learn a lot. And I think anyone who runs for Alice knows that. As Alice, during my time competing, they have this program called the Communications and Marketing Program Certificate you get. And in that 4 or 5 week time period that you're preparing for the Alice finals, you spend time learning about all these different commodities. So you have a kind of a class on cranberries or a class on ginseng, so you can learn about it right from a farmer or someone who works for like the ginseng growers of Wisconsin or something like that. So that was probably the biggest thing I learned growing up on a dairy farm. I knew about cows and milk and cheese and how awesome it all is, but I didn't quite know just the diversity of products and farming that we have in Wisconsin. And so that was probably the biggest thing for me to learn. Like I said before, when we weren't on air, I said, I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And that's how I feel about Wisconsin agriculture. I could tell you about cranberries or ginseng. And that was the big learning for me, is just learning about all the different things, the specialty crops, the big commodities. And I love to take that forward now into my role at Farmers Union and kind of have a little bit of that information floating around at all times. It really does come in handy.
I have to say that was the first thing that I had to learn about that was different from farming was ginseng, like what it is, and to appreciate the importance of it. Hans, you came over here all or your parents, I should say, and you were all in on dairy, I would imagine, from the get go. But you're I'm sure you're still learning things, learning about
Oh,
things, or being
absolutely.
surprised by things.
I'm learning every single day. You bet. I learn things from my kids and my staff, and I still learn things from my dear mother. So, yeah, I don't think you're ever done.
No, well, no, and you shouldn't be. And look, the Allison Dairyland program is just one of the ways. Another would be the county fairs. I mean, we're going to be coming up on county fair season pretty soon. Julie, any idea? Have you? How many of the county fairs have you been to around the state? You would you say you've been to nearly all of them or many?
I don't think I've been to all of them. I know the Wisconsin Fairs, the fairs position usually tries to hit all of them, and I think there's
Sure.
over 70.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not go to over 70 fairs. I
Okay.
did my fair share. I probably went to over 30 or so. But there's a lot in Wisconsin, and I love to go to them as well.
I would say as well the when we talk about things that we're still learning and appreciating that Hans has actually been especially good for that for me when we first started having these radio discussions, learning about the markets, the monopoly power, if you will, that there are only four major meat producers out there, meat packers, and so that's why there's value in encouraging smaller Wisconsin-based operations to engage in that for meat or for other commodities as well. And Julie, I would imagine that is also something that's in your wheelhouse now, is helping encourage the growth, the creation, and the development of small businesses, not just farms, but processors, meat packers, sellers, anything related to agriculture in our state.
Yeah. At Wisconsin Farmers Union, we do a lot to help those small, mid-sized farmers, meat packers, anything like that. And we have got a whole big team of people here trying to kind of lift up their voices, provide resources. And we have a lot of resources and information on our website, wisconsinfarmersunion.com. And the programs and things we have going on are way beyond what I know off the top of my head. But I highly encourage people, if they're not members, to look at our website. If you align with what we're doing, feel free to join our organization, because we're always looking to, like I said, lift up those voices of small and mid-sized farms. We want to see family farms like Hans's to go on for a while yet. I know you've got some kids who are probably loving the farm, but that's what we're all about here. We want to see those family farms continue on, and yeah, that's what we do.
I think Hans. You may have been usurped as the leading advocate for Wisconsin Farmers Union, though you're still right there in the running.
I think I may have been usurped. Yes.
No. I think it's great to have
I
both of you there.
And the word usurp that I probably wouldn't otherwise use today.
There you go. See, I help out a little. We all learn something every day. Julie, are you at the Farmers Union offices in Chippewa Falls, or are you also in the state?
Yep, I'm up. I am based up in the office in Chippewa Falls. We also have an office down in Madison.
Okay. But for folks, we don't have time to get into it now, but Wisconsin Farmers Union is doing something so cool with an old building right near you along the river, and that's going to get going next year, I think. The construction's going on. Can't wait to talk more about that. A lot of people excited about it. Julia Nunez, former Allison Dairyland, now with Wisconsin Farmers Union, Hans Breitenmoser. Thanks to both of you as always. Love the visit. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Chad Holmes will be here next to talk about his show coming up on Bull Falls Radio. You're up north.
Counting down the seconds, or maybe having second thought.
All right. There we go. Thanks, you guys. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. All right.
Yep, thanks, Hans.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Take care.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Here we go. What are you waiting for? You've only got 9 minutes left to text the word democracy on the Civic Media app, and you will be entered in the Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. So text democracy to us ASAP before 8 o'clock. Chad Holmes is here from Bull Falls Radio. He'll have a keyword as well. Whoops, I hit the wrong button there. There we go. He'll be part of all of the shenanigans with Scotty Summer as well. But in the meantime, I wanted to get to some reaction here. I mentioned that today is National German Chocolate Day. Alicia writes in, German chocolate cake with coconut pecan icing is amazing. Meanwhile, in our private chat, some guy named Greg writes, German chocolate cake is, how did you describe it, Greg?
A human rights violation.
You take that back right now. That is just... Chad
Pat,
Holmes is
my
here
last
now to
name is-
break the tie. So
Okay, go ahead, Chad.
Chad?
Go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
German chocolate cake. Human
Remember,
rights violation?
Just remember this. Remember this. I control all the audio right now. So
Oh,
Well,
I am definitely with Greg on this one.
there we go.
All right. Well, it's been nice having you two. We'll meet you two, and I'll tell you what's coming up tomorrow here on the show. How can you say that?
It's easy. And
It's
I'm
so
German. My last name
delicious.
is Bach. And
Yeah.
and I think German chocolate cake is terrible. I think German potato salad is terrible.
Oh,
It's also gritty and yellowish orange gray gold and disgusting and filled with coconut. And
where are you guys getting your German chocolate cake? That sounds terrible.
from the bottom of the well. I have no
Oh.
idea. All I know is I hate it.
All right. Then offsetting that for each of you would be what? If I'm not making you a German chocolate cake for your birthday, somebody puts in a request. What are they making you?
Chad, what are you getting? You're on mute.
See, take yourself off
Chad,
mute
you're
there,
on mute.
Chad. Oh, maybe I put him there. Hang on a second. Nope, it wasn't me. You muted yourself there, buddy. Let's see. He's pushing the button. There we go.
I don't know what happened there again. Somehow that happened 2 weeks in a row now where it just magically muted me. I don't know if my computer.
I think, well, Greg threatens to, and I think maybe AI is more powerful than we
Oh,
think.
don't even go there.
So what are we getting you for a cake if not German chocolate?
I'm just a chocolate guy. I'm just a plain chocolate guy. I'm a traditional chocolate guy, and I'm a boring person when it comes to food. And I've tried my best to try to break out of that bubble, but unfortunately, I've been boring my whole life.
See, the thing is, neither Sherry nor my daughters like German chocolate cake either. So every year for my birthday, I get my second favorite, which is a chocolate cake, chocolate frosting, but a raspberry filling in the middle. Uh-oh, Greg's
All right.
ready.
Oh, no. This is where I'm going to come to your defense.
Okay, thank you.
If German chocolate cake is your favorite and that's what you want for your birthday, then I think that Dr. Kreitlow and your children, at the very least, could get you like a small German chocolate cake for you to enjoy. You shouldn't have to settle for second or third best. It's your day.
Yeah, but it's a close second. It's really good. I mean, I appreciate that you're looking out for my desire to have something that you find abhorrent.
I do. Oh my God.
Therefore,
It's a war crime. Just
it
an absolute
is.
war crime.
See, now I'm going down to the festival here, and usually I'll get like a chocolate donut, chocolate frosted donut, but every so often they've got one with the German chocolate frosting on top, and I'm going to get
Is
you
it
one
on
of those
sale
next time.
because no one bought it?
No. As a matter of fact, it probably costs more because it's so scrumptious.
Ugh.
But all right, Chad's over here going, Mommy and Daddy are fighting again.
I think that I had heard yesterday while I was tuned into Todd's show that you're going to be like a special guest when Jane and Todd visit Eau Claire this
Oh
week.
yeah, we haven't even talked about that. Jane and Todd coming to
Oh,
Eau
you
Claire
should-
Thursday, Amory Friday, and I'll be
You
there.
should bring this huge cake of German chocolate all over it, and whatever else in between, whatever else you like in the middle of it,
Mhm.
and share it with the road trippers that are coming to your neck of the woods. And I kind of chuckled because I was actually driving at the time, coming back to the station, and Todd was saying yes, and special guest Pat Kreitlow, and I think
Special. Look at that.
I'm thinking it's almost like a special appearance by Pat Kreitlow coming from his beautiful property on Lake Wissota into
Make it sound like a compound up here. Yeah.
in Eau Claire proper, and they're gonna have the lights. It'd be like the royal family coming into town.
Goodness. Hello. Yes.
It's
Special
it's special-
appearance by Pat Kreitlow.
It's special appearance by Up North News Radio. Radio's Up North News Radio with TV's Pat Kreitlow.
Yeah, something like that. Thank you, Alicia, for the follow-up on Facebook. Pat, you get you some German chocolate cake. And
I agree.
I will. So there. Chad has a show, meanwhile, that we should probably be talking about as well. What's happening out there? Let me ask you specifically, though. The new mayor up there recently, I guess, kind of pulled the plug on some development in the city, saying that there were too many other things that needed to be worked on first. I don't know if that was something that was particularly controversial, if it was talked about much on your show, but I would think as a political strategy, that was exactly what somebody who ran a campaign like his needs to do, is to say, no, we can't do this anymore.
I think it did kind of fit, and I found it to be an interesting early step, because again, this was not about, at this very point, saying we're going to put X number of dollars into some sort of project. I think it's just to try to say, hey, this is kind of what I ran on. This is trying to be a little bit, for lack of a better term, more careful with the purse strings and worried about. And as I said on my show, one thing about local government, and I try, but when I talk to folks, they got these packets that are so thick, and I said, I'm not going to come on here and start ripping my hair out or say that's a wonderful thing without knowing exactly what the mayor, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the mayor since then. I just find it was interesting that there was a majority of the council that was for this. I do think that at times, I think I kind of hit it. I agreed. It came to me the same way that you kind of put it, that this is an indication early in the administration that you better be careful if you're
be careful bringing your request to this guy.
Yeah.
Which,
and again, it's very early, and I'm not willing to say that he's going to be somebody that is very tight on the purse strings in that respect, but I did think it sent a bit of a signal.
Well, because remember, if you're saying no to everything, then you better find some other way to show progress in your city. Otherwise, you're just Dr. No. Chad Holmes, his show is 8 to 10 weekdays on Bull Falls Radio, or listen through the Civic Media app. Greg Bach, you'll hear him next in 2 hours for Matt and Air on Air from 10 to noon. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it so much. Tomorrow, we will talk about Republican legislative leadership sitting on money that could be used to improve reading and literacy skills in Wisconsin schools because they're picking another petty fight with Governor Tony Evers. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll see you back here Wednesday morning, 6 a.m.